Morning everybody, it's Monday morning and we're on our journey through to Good Friday coming at the end of this week. And this morning we're in Luke chapter 19. And in Luke chapter 19, Jesus is in the last week of his life before Good Friday. And Jesus is on a journey. He goes from Jericho up to the city of Jerusalem where he has the triumphant entry, which we looked at yesterday in our church service. Gwyn Parry looked at Palm Sunday, so there's no point in me going over the same verses when he's already done a great job. If you haven't seen it, it's on the KBC YouTube channel. So Jesus enters Jericho, and Jericho is a bit like Las Vegas of the ancient times. It was a bit of a wild city. There was lots of money there. There was lots of vice. And Jesus enters the city, and there's crowds everywhere because Jesus has been around for 3.5 years doing ministry, teaching people about God and displaying God's power and God's glory by all the amazing miracles that he's been doing. And Zacchaeus is in the crowd, but Zacchaeus can't see over the crowd because it says he's a short guy. So he runs ahead and he climbs a tree. I know what you're thinking, I'm a short guy, but I did some research, and 2,000 years ago the average height in Israel was 5 foot tall. So Zacchaeus could have been 4 foot possibly. But me at 5'4.5", I could have been classed as a tall guy. I should go back. So who is this guy Zacchaeus? Well, it tells us that he's a tax collector. And he was a Jewish guy who was a tax collector for the Romans. The Romans had taken over Israel. So essentially he was a traitor to his people. And he would have been hated, he would have been ostracized, he would have been isolated, and he would have been put in the same bracket as murderers, rapists and tax collectors all together. So Zacchaeus, he runs ahead and he climbs a tree because he wants to see Jesus. He wants to hear what Jesus has to say. Jesus comes along the street and he looks at all the crowd. And when he gets to the bit where Zacchaeus is at the tree, he says, "Zacchaeus, come down. Tonight I'm coming to your house for tea." And what's interesting is Jesus knows his name. And he picks him out from the crowd above everybody else. Even though he's hated, even though he's rejected, even though he's been ostracized from society, Jesus picks him out. And this morning, it's interesting to know that whoever you are, wherever you are, Jesus knows you by name. Regardless of how you think about yourself, regardless of what other people think about you, regardless of your social standing, however well you're doing in life, he knows you by name. And Jesus is personally interested in every single person. And Zacchaeus, Jesus could have chose to go to anybody's house, but he chose the rejected, he chose the hated, he chose the isolated, and he did that to show that he's a God of love, and he's a God who's interested in every single person's life on a personal level. And Zacchaeus was willing to put the effort in, he was willing to run ahead, he was willing to climb the tree because he wanted to get a glimpse of who this Jesus really was. And this Easter, can I ask you a question? Are you willing to put any effort in to really seek and really find out who this Jesus is? Can I ask you to put any preconceived ideas about religion or about church and just open the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke or John, and have a read, and read it with an open heart and an open mind? So Zacchaeus looked for Jesus, Jesus found him, and Jesus called him by name. And then Zacchaeus had a physical encounter with Jesus, and he said instantly he wants to give half of his money away to the poor, and he wants to pay back 4 times as much as what he's cheated anybody. And in response, Jesus says, "Today salvation has come to this man's house." You see, Zacchaeus not only had a physical encounter, but he had a spiritual encounter with Jesus in his heart and in his life. And when anybody encounters Jesus, it brings change. There's a cause and there's an effect by that encounter. And Jesus can bring peace, he can bring love, he can bring hope, and he can bring joy into everybody's life and situation. And then Jesus finishes the section, talking about himself. He says, "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." And there's a picture here that Zacchaeus was lost, but Jesus found him. And when he found him, he had a life-transforming encounter. So he was found by God. And over the centuries, there's been millions of people since Zacchaeus' time who've encountered Jesus for themselves. They've encountered the living God, and they've testified that they've had a change in their heart and in their life. One of my favourites is the story of a guy called John Newton. Over 400 years ago, John Newton was a slave trader, an English guy, and he'd take slaves from Africa in terrible conditions to Liverpool or to the West Indies. And to be a slave trader, he was a tough guy. He was hard as nails. And one particular time there was a storm, and his boat was off the coast of Ireland, and it was a terrible storm, and his boat was getting washed towards the rocks. And in desperation, he cried out to God, and he said, God, if you will save me today, I will serve you. And a miracle happened, and John Newton was saved. And John Newton was good to his word. He encountered God, and he became a pastor, teaching people about God's love, about God's mercy, and about God's grace. And John Newton wrote some amazing songs, and he wrote the hymn, Amazing Grace. And it goes something like this. The first verse, Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. We all know the song. Come on, really. For those that know me, do you think I was going to play guitar and sing a song this morning? I can't play and I can't sing, so I'm sorry to disappoint you. And if you don't know me and I had have played the song, then you would have been disappointed, because it's not my thing. But the Bible says this, taste and see that the Lord is good. I guarantee you, if you seek God with all of your heart, with all of your mind and all of your strength, you will find him and you will not be disappointed. Hope you all have a great day. Stay safe, stay blessed. See you all soon.